So for my eagle-eyed viewers, you'll probably notice this is actually the drop that's left over from that walking beam repair I just did on that Miller trailer suspension. So I was digging around for something that would make a nice starting point for this retaining cap, and that looked nice, so I grabbed it. That's why I almost never throw anything away. It's got to be a pretty small piece of metal before I can find another use for it. Got to do touch off on the face. I have to get my micrometer stop set. What we're going to do is come up somewhere in the general vicinity like this. So the shoulder on that thing is just over half an inch. So I'm going to go get myself a half-inch stock. Like this is a piece of a half-inch lathe tooling. It's rounded. I'm going to do, stick it in here and crank this up against it. There it is. And I want about 5,000 less than that staircase. There we are. Gave it the other 5,000 back that I had left off to start with. Otherwise, a lot of your bores are smooth until you're stepping your way in there. Alright, I realized, thankfully, before I wasted too much time, that it really made the most sense to just go ahead and use this part of the guide to drill the bronze nut, that there was no point in trying to hit that number. So I'm set up over here in the drill press. Using this as a guide now. Time to go get me a rammer. All right, well, I think this is for all the marbles right here. We're getting ready to put this together. I've got her spun up there. Came out so far looking nice. I guess the real determining factor of if it's nice or not is going to be, does it fit? I have got the screw stuffed in, and then I've just lightly tapped in the remains of the old taper pin. New one from McMaster Car won't be here till Monday, so it's in there just so I can play with it. So anyway, I'm going to get this camera set up, and we're going to put this thing together, I hope. Okay. Some oil in the oil hole. I'm going to go to the other end now and draw that nut in using the screw. Okay, time to fire it up and see. It's going to be real close clearance. There's a stop block that's been added to this. So this one, it's not factory. It was added by one of the guys that worked in the last shop. It's like the guy that originally ran this. He's not responsible for any of the stupidness and abuse. That was somebody later on, but he actually is the first guy that ever ran this shop. So anyway, he added that because when they took the backrest off, he was just in here today and he told me when they pulled the backrest, he did some measuring and figured out that you could trash the scale. That, you know, the backrest base sitting here stopped you. So when that got pulled off, he added this block to stop it from wrecking the scale. So anyway, I got to double check that my new flange doesn't crash into this. If it does, I'm going to take this block out and shave the corner off because it's going to be close. All right, well, she's got, I don't know, about, it's clearance anyway. I'm going to say 1/16 of an inch, so clearance is clearance, or so they say. So we're going to come run this baby back the other way. hard stop on this end. Take a look at her here. Don't see anything crazy happening. Slather it up with some oil and run her back the other direction. Alright, well, I decided to dig into another project. So, this thing on this Z-axis screw, when you're traveling towards the head, it runs real smooth, nice and easy. When you come back the other way, all of a sudden it gets hard and you start feeling these bevel gear teeth. And what I had noticed, I've known this for quite a while, is that there's end play in this assembly, and what you're doing is bottoming out the teeth in the bevel gear, and then it's really hard to sneak up on a number because it's, you know, you feel the click, 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 click as you come over them teeth. So I'd looked in the manual. This has 2 ball bearing thrust bearings in it, and I'm assuming after 74 years they've got enough wear on them that that's what's causing this. So anyway, I tore the lid off, which I should explain in case any of you decide you need to do this to yours. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to encounter. 4 bolts, and I could see I had a couple of pins in it. Those appear to be straight dowel pins, but the trick is how to get a hold of the darn things. They don't give you any way to grab it. So what I did was clamped a piece of aluminum on this rod, lowered the head a bit, clamped that piece of aluminum on, and then raised it up enough just to where I could start seeing it lifting the front edge. I'd tapped on it and verified that it wasn't tight. So anyway, got it lifted on the front edge a bit, and then I was able to slide some putty knives into about here on each side, and then start teeter-tottering it basically, where I'd lift on it a bit and then smack the other side and start getting it to work its way loose, and just gradually kept, you know, raising the head a little bit, picking and working until I got to where I could get in there with a pry bar and pry that thing loose, and then I just picked it up by hand, and right now it's sitting on this block back over here. Swung out of the way. But what I discovered is mouse nest crap all over. Like, here's some more. I've been digging out insulation that them little buggers stuck everywhere in here. And then, interestingly enough, this oil channel looks to me like it's never been working. There was so much mouse nest material that it was wicking all the oil out of there and dumping it over the edge, and it wasn't actually getting to the things it's supposed to be. So, like this channel, you can see it's filled up and it's coming up to the level of these oil cups, which is great. This one wasn't. It was about a 1/4 inch oil in the bottom because it's getting all wicked out of there by the mouse nest. But anyhow, so I've been cleaning this mess up, and what I discovered, so the manual shows a big nut on the end of this shaft retaining that bevel gear. This one does not have. It has a taper pin through it. So I'm getting ready to knock out that taper pin, and then we're going to see if we can get this loose. And I've already, I took my dial indicator here, put it on the end of the screw, and checked how much backlash it's got in it. It's about 33 thousandths. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is get the roll pin out, run the shaft back, pull the thrust bearings off, and when I get the thrust bearings off the shaft, I'm going to add about a 30 thousandth shim behind this back thrust bearing to keep this thing ahead, if you want to call it that. So I'll bring you back when I've got more to show. I'm not sure if there's some detail about these things that I'm missing or what, but I got a punch. It was just barely the right size, fit in the small end hole. Did a big hammer, because I know this kind of stuff. You need shock load. You don't want to peen the end out. Didn't even budge and immediately starts peening the end of the thing out. So a little bit of that later, I ended up drilling a hole all the way through it, heating it from the inside, multiple rounds of that before I got this thing to even think about starting to go. What a pain in the butt. Anyway, I'm just now getting down to the brass tacks here, so to speak. Should, in theory anyway, pull this out of here. the table. Ouch! Oh, that little bird got me. Yep, she's tugging her out of there. That's interesting. So that is that bearing assembly. Huh. Very interesting. Shrapnel in the hole. All kinds of stuff here that needs cleaning up. That's about what I expected. Just not in terrible shape. Got a little bit of pitting, but nothing that really would hurt something like this that much. Mostly, it's just an issue of grit and grime, wear and tear. So this machine, yeah, it's a little hurting. I may see if I can get a new one of these. So anyway, what I was getting ready to say, so there's no seals or anything on this, right? Like this is never intended to see for sure flood coolant, and that's exactly what happened to it. In the last shop they had it in, they sat it in a pit and just flood coolant pouring over the whole thing. That's been a lot of the problems I've found have been from that flood coolant, because, I mean, this old machine was never intended to cope with that. So, anyway, you can definitely see the wear and tear that put on it over the years. It was not good for it. Alright, well, I thought I would show you guys where we're at for the night. So, this is the thrust bearing assembly that was in this pocket. So this is an SKF 709, and what I've discovered is that that part number crosses to a modern one, which is a 51209. Now where this gets weird is a 51209, all these parts match, but then you got this that I'm assuming must have been something that was custom for Lucas, because it's got the same part number on it. This 709, same part number as that one, but it's substantially thicker and has got this, you know, self-aligning feature. It sits in this pocket, and then it can, I guess, in theory, warble itself around and square itself up. I don't really understand what the point of that is, to be perfectly honest, because it's a straight shaft. Like, I don't understand where, why, or how it would ever need that feature. But they seem to think it did, so it's got that. So anyways, I have ordered one of the modern versions. Right now, my thoughts are vacillating between two different ideas. One is to just say screw it and make a new one of these with a square bottom in it at the correct, you know, thickness, depth. It'll be some horsing around to figure it out. But anyways, get that thing set up so that this thing just uses a standard bearing. But what I'm inclined to do, there is some pitting on here, but the majority of this race is pretty good. At any given time, you'd only have 1 or 2 balls crossing a bad spot in here. I'm thinking about checking what dimensions, make sure that it actually is the same on the new one, and using this part and that part, because this is what's actually really the trouble. See this? Got little pits all over in the balls. Honestly, if I couldn't get this, I was going to take this apart, buy individual balls, and run both of these races, because you'd be shocked how much of that you can have and still have it work out fine. What gets you in trouble is all these balls with all their little chunkies corroded out of them. These are where it's really, really fighting me. So, anyways, we'll see what it looks like when it gets here, but in the meantime, I got a lot of cleaning to do in here. We're going to dig all the crud and sludge out of here, and I keep fishing out there another piece right there of a dadgum mouse nest. Anyways, get this thing all cleaned out, and hopefully by the beginning of next week have all the goodies that I need to put this thing back together. So, sat down, thought it over, and realized, you know what? Yes, there's some pitting on these balls and these bearings, but that is not catastrophic on an old machine like this. I mean, the real issue here was that I had so much backlash in that thrust bearing assembly that it was letting these gears bottom out. So anyways, I went ahead and ordered a new one, such as I can get. I'm going to have it on hand, but I really need this machine back up and going. So what I've done is cleaned everything up, oiled it up. I added a 20 thousandths shim because I had measured 30 thousandths worth of end travel in this screw. So figured take 20, and it's a good thing it wasn't any more than that because it's actually a little bit snug. I don't know if we've got a little bit of junk behind one of those, but we'll see what it does as we run it. But long and short of it is, it feels amazing. Silky smooth, no more of the whole gear. And so when I was, let's see here, when I was traveling out with the table, I was bottomed out, and you can see now I have just a little bit of wiggle in the gear teeth. So anyway, I have not bothered to cut off the taper pin. I drove it in there. I'm going to leave it long because it's not going to hit anything, with the idea being that maybe it'll make life easier if I've got to get it back out, if I've got something to hit on this end. So we'll see if that's a good theory or not. I figure I can always cut it off later. But so at this point, I'm going to clean everything up in here, clean the oil passages all out, dig whatever I can find to the mouse nest out, and then we're going to put this thing back together and get to work. But I would say just my experience with these kind, I mean, it's low speed, right? Even in rapid traverse, this shaft is turning, what, maybe 50 RPM, 100 tops. Anyways, even with the pitting in that bearing, it'll run another 100 years with it shimmed out. But like I say, I'm going to have a spare on hand. It's like, what would it cost me? $35 to order one. And I'll just keep it on the shelf. If this thing develops, backlash again, then I'll tear it down and put it in, because that would be the telltale, right? It's silky smooth. You can't feel any of that. It's just a question of whether it wears, fast enough to take up the 20 thousandths worth of shim I just added. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. We're going to get out of here. Wiggles and I are pooped. You want to go home, Wiggles? Yeah. He says yes. All right. We'll catch you guys next time. Hopefully next time is starting work on that beast now, but we'll see how this all comes together over the next couple days. Guys, have a good weekend.